My name is Serena, and I'm 37 years old. A lot has happened in my life over the past few months, and I feel it's important to share my story. I want to remind everyone to trust their gut feelings, especially when it comes to family. Not all family members can be trusted, and it's always better to be safe than sorry. My story begins a few years ago when I met my husband, Danny. We both worked at the same company, but in different departments. Our paths first crossed at a company celebration, an event that brought all the departments together. It was one of those rare occasions where you feel a spark with someone right away. I remember it like it was yesterday. The room was buzzing with conversation, and I was standing near the snack table, feeling a bit out of place. That's when Danny walked up to me with a friendly smile. "Hi, I'm Danny," he said, extending his hand. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all," I replied, shaking his hand. "I'm Serena." We started talking, and before I knew it, we had spent the entire evening in deep conversation. We talked about everything: our jobs, our hobbies, our dreams. There was an ease between us that felt natural and comforting. "You know," Danny said, as the event was winding down, "I've really enjoyed talking with you tonight. Can I have your number? I'd love to continue this conversation sometime." "Sure," I said, smiling. "I'd like that too." And just like that, we exchanged numbers. Soon after, we started dating. Those early days were filled with excitement and joy. Danny was thoughtful and kind, and we quickly realized that we had something special. After 3 wonderful years together, Danny proposed to me during a sunset walk on the beach. It was the happiest moment of my life. Our wedding day was beautiful, surrounded by family and friends. As I walked down the aisle, I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. Married life was blissful. Danny and I had a great relationship. We rarely fought and seemed to understand each other without needing many words. But there was one issue in my otherwise perfect life: my mother-in-law, Willow. Willow was quite a character. She could be pleasant at times, but she also had moments of rudeness. She would sometimes make snide remarks or even insult me outright. It was hard to tell if her forgetfulness was genuine or selective, especially when it came to me. One evening after dinner at our house, Willow approached me with a request. "Serena, can I borrow your laptop to browse Amazon? Mine is acting up," she asked, giving me a sweet smile. "Of course, Willow. Just be careful with it," I replied, trying to keep things cordial. The next day, I found out that she had ordered expensive items using my saved card information. I was furious, but Danny managed to get her to pay me back. "Mom, you need to be more careful," Danny told her sternly. "Serena works hard for her money, and it's not right to take advantage of her." "Oh, I didn't mean to, dear," Willow replied, looking genuinely puzzled. "I must have forgotten to switch accounts. I'm sorry, Serena." "It's okay, Willow. Just please be more mindful next time," I said, forcing a smile. Another time, Danny and I were planning a short trip and needed someone to care for our cat. My friends were unavailable and my parents were out of town, so I reluctantly asked Willow, "Mom, can you come by once a day to feed and water the cat while we're gone?" Danny asked her. "Sure, no problem," she said confidently. When we returned, our house was infested with ants, and the cat's food bowl was overflowing and crawling with them. My poor cat was itchy all over from the ants. Furious, Danny and I went to Willow's house. "Welcome back. It's lovely to see you both," she said cheerfully. "Really? What did you do?" I asked, unable to hide my anger. "I asked you to do one thing, Mom. Why didn't you take care of the cat?" "What are you talking about?" "I did. I filled the bowls with food and water." "Yeah, you overfilled them, and now the house is crawling with ants. The cat couldn't eat or drink because of them. Did you even go over every day like I asked?" "I went over the first day after you left and filled the bowls really well. I figured if I put a lot of food and water, the cat would be fine for a while." "Mom, that's not how it works, and you know it," Danny said, exasperated. "Pardon me for not knowing how to take care of pets. You know I hate them," Willow retorted. "So you only went over one day?" I asked, my voice rising. "Yeah, I forgot about the cat after that." "If you knew you couldn't take care of the cat, why didn't you just tell me? I wouldn't have asked you." "Look, is the cat alive?" "Yes, that's all that matters." "That was a very crappy thing for you to do. I need you to apologize to Serena," Danny demanded. "Sorry, Serena," Willow said, but she didn't seem remorseful at all. I walked away, too upset to continue. Seeing her act like it was no big deal made me want to scream. Danny followed me out and apologized on his mother's behalf, but I wouldn't let him. He had nothing to do with her actions. We got the ant infestation taken care of, and after a vet visit, my cat was fine. Looking back, I should have recognized the signs of Willow's carelessness. If I had stood up to her then, I could have avoided a lot of pain later on. But at that moment, I just wanted to keep the peace and protect my family. As time went on, I would learn that sometimes peace comes at too high a price. Life was good for Danny and me after we got married. We enjoyed a simple, happy routine. Our little home was filled with laughter, love, and the occasional playful argument about whose turn it was to do the dishes. But there was one thing that constantly cast a shadow over our happiness: Danny's mother, Willow. Willow was a character, to say the least. She could be charming and friendly one moment, and the next, she could say something that cut you to the bone. Her forgetfulness only made things worse. I sometimes wondered if it was real or if she just used it as an excuse. One incident that still makes my blood boil happened about 6 months after Danny and I got married. I was sitting in the living room, sipping my morning coffee when Willow called. "Serena, dear, can I borrow your laptop for a bit? Mine isn't working," she asked sweetly. "Sure, Willow, but please be careful with it," I replied, handing it over. The next day, I checked my email and saw several order confirmations from Amazon. Willow had used my saved card information to buy expensive items. "Willow, did you use my laptop to buy these things?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Oh, did I? I must have forgotten to switch accounts. I'm so sorry, Serena," she said, looking genuinely puzzled. I was furious, but held it together. When Danny came home, I told him what happened. "Mom, you need to be more careful. Serena works hard for her money, and it's not right to take advantage of her," Danny said sternly. "I'm really sorry, Serena." "I didn't mean to," Willow said, but her apology felt hollow. Another time, we needed someone to look after our cat, Whiskers, while we went on a short trip. My friends were busy, and my parents were out of town, so I reluctantly asked Willow, "Mom, can you come by once a day to feed and water the cat while we're gone?" Danny asked her. "Of course, no problem," she replied confidently. When we returned, our house was a disaster. Ants were everywhere, and poor Whiskers was itchy and uncomfortable from the ant bites. His food bowl was overflowing, crawling with ants. Furious, we drove to Willow's house to confront her. "Welcome back. It's lovely to see you both," she said cheerfully as if nothing had happened. "What did you do, Willow?" "I asked you to do one thing," I said, unable to hide my anger. "Why didn't you take care of the cat?" "What are you talking about?" "I did. I filled the bowls with food and water." "Yeah, you overfilled them. And now the house is crawling with ants. The cat couldn't eat or drink because of them." "Did you even go over every day like I asked?" Danny asked, exasperated. "I went over the first day after you left and filled the bowls really well. I figured if I put a lot of food and water, the cat would be fine for a while." Willow replied defensively. "Mom, that's not how it works, and you know it," Danny said. "Pardon me for not knowing how to take care of pets. You know I hate them," she retorted. "So, you only went over one day?" I asked, my voice rising. "Yeah, I forgot about the cat after that." "If you knew you couldn't take care of the cat, why didn't you just tell me?" I wouldn't have asked you, I said, feeling my frustration boiling over. Look, is the cat alive? Yes, that's all that matters. That was a very crappy thing for you to do. I need you to apologize to Serena, Danny demanded. Sorry, Serena, Willow said, but there was no remorse in her voice. I walked away, too upset to continue. Seeing her act like it was no big deal made me want to scream. Danny followed me out and apologized on his mother's behalf, but I wouldn't let him. He had nothing to do with her actions. We got the ant infestation taken care of, and after a vet visit, Whiskers was fine, but the incident left a scar. I started to see a pattern in Willow's behavior. She was careless and dismissive, especially when it came to me. It felt like she was always testing me, pushing boundaries to see how much I could take. Another incident happened when Danny and I decided to have a small get-together at our house. We invited a few friends and family members, including Willow. Everything was going well until Willow made a comment that stung. Serena, I noticed you haven't lost the weight you gained after the wedding. Are you planning to do something about it? She asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. I felt the room go silent, and all eyes turned to me. I wanted to disappear. Willow, that's not appropriate, Danny said, his face turning red with anger. I'm just concerned. It's not healthy to carry extra weight, she said, completely oblivious to the discomfort she had caused. Mom, you need to stop. This is not okay, Danny said firmly. I forced a smile and excused myself to the kitchen, trying to hold back tears. Moments later, Danny joined me. I'm so sorry, Serena. She had no right to say that, he said, hugging me tightly. It's okay, Danny. I'm just tired of her always making these comments, I said, wiping my eyes. I know. I'll talk to her again, he promised. But talking never seemed to make a difference. Willow continued to make snide remarks and act like nothing she did was wrong. It was exhausting, and I started to dread family gatherings. One evening, after another tense dinner with Willow, Danny, and I sat on the couch, trying to unwind. I'm really sorry, Serena. I don't know why she does this, Danny said, looking defeated. It's not your fault, Danny. I just wish she could see how much she hurts people with her words and actions, I replied. I'll keep trying to get through to her, I promise, he said, holding my hand. As the months went by, I realized that Willow was not going to change. I had to find a way to protect myself and my happiness while still being part of the family. It was a delicate balance, but I was determined to make it work. Little did I know, the biggest test was yet to come. The day I found out I was pregnant was one of the happiest moments of my life. Danny and I had been trying for a while, and when the test finally showed those 2 little lines, I felt like our dreams were coming true. Danny, come here, I called, barely able to contain my excitement. He rushed into the bathroom, concern etched on his face. What is it, Serena? Are you okay? I held up the test, my hands trembling. We're going to have a baby. Danny's face lit up with joy. He scooped me up in a hug and spun me around. That's amazing. We're going to be parents. The next few months were a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, baby books, and planning. But my pregnancy wasn't easy. I had all the classic symptoms: morning sickness that lasted all day, swollen feet, and constant fatigue. Despite the discomfort, I was over the moon. I was carrying our little miracle. One evening, around 7 months into my pregnancy, I felt a sharp pain in my abdomen. At first, I thought it was just another one of the usual aches and pains, but the pain didn't go away. It got worse. Danny, something's wrong, I said, clutching my belly. He rushed over, his face pale with worry. We need to get you to the hospital. The drive to the hospital felt like it took forever. I was scared and in pain, and all I could think about was our baby. When we finally arrived, the doctors quickly assessed me and confirmed that I was in labor, 2 months early. Your baby is coming early, Mrs. Thompson, the doctor said gently. We'll do everything we can to ensure a safe delivery. I was terrified. I hadn't expected to go into labor so soon. The next few hours were a blur of pain, fear, and medical procedures. Danny was by my side the entire time, holding my hand and whispering words of encouragement. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, our son was born. He was tiny, weighing just over 3 pounds, but he was alive. The doctors whisked him away to the neonatal intensive care unit, NICU, and I was left lying in the delivery room, exhausted and worried. "He's going to be okay, Serena," Danny said, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "He's a fighter, just like his mom." Those first 2 weeks were incredibly hard. Eric, as we named our son, had to stay in the NICU, connected to machines that helped him breathe and eat. I couldn't hold him, and that broke my heart. I would sit by his incubator, watching his tiny chest rise and fall, praying that he would get stronger. One day, a nurse finally told me that I could hold Eric for the first time. My hand shook as I gently picked him up and cradled him against my chest. Tears streamed down my face as I felt his warmth and heard his soft breaths. "Hi, little one," I whispered. "I'm your mommy. I've been waiting so long to hold you." Danny stood beside me, his eyes moist with tears. "He's perfect, Serena. Just perfect." Holding Eric for the first time was a turning point. It gave me the strength to push through the exhaustion and worry. Danny and I decided that we needed to limit visitors to protect Eric during his most vulnerable months. We wanted to bond as a family and ensured he stayed healthy. I took time off work to care for Eric. My job was understanding, and I was grateful for the year's maternity leave and the option to work from home. Those first few months were a blur of feedings, diaper changes, and sleepless nights, but they were also filled with joy and love. We kept our promise to limit visitors, which included Willow. She wasn't happy about it, but Danny and I were firm. Eric's health was our top priority. One afternoon, when Eric was about 3 months old, Willow called. "Serena, I'd like to come over and see my grandson," she said, her tone slightly accusatory. "Willow, I understand you want to see him, but Eric's still very fragile. The doctor advised us to limit visitors for now," I explained. "I raised a child, you know. I think I can handle visiting my grandson," she retorted. "It's not about handling it, Willow. It's about keeping Eric safe. We can arrange a visit when he's a bit older and stronger," I said, trying to stay calm. "Fine," she huffed, "but don't keep me away for too long." Despite the tension, Danny and I stayed united in our decision. We focused on Eric, watching him grow stronger each day. His first smile, his first laugh. Every milestone was a victory. 3 years passed quickly. Eric was a happy, healthy toddler, full of energy and curiosity. Danny and I realized that we hadn't spent much time together as a couple since Eric was born, so we decided to go on a date one weekend. Danny mentioned it to Willow, and she insisted on babysitting for us. "Are you sure about this?" I asked Danny, my gut feeling uneasy. "She's been trying hard to be a good grandma. I think it'll be okay," he reassured me. Our date was wonderful, a much-needed break. But when we returned to Willow's house, her car wasn't in the driveway. Panic set in as we rang the doorbell, but there was no answer. Using a spare key, we let ourselves in and found Eric lying in bed, crying. "Eric, where's Grandma?" I asked, scooping him up into my arms. "I don't know, Mommy. She left," he sobbed. Furious, Danny searched the house but couldn't find Willow. She returned 10 minutes later, completely unbothered. "Where the hell were you?" I demanded, unable to hide my anger. "Oh, I got a call from a friend and went out for coffee. I made sure Eric was asleep before I left," she said casually. "Willow, you can't just leave a child alone. It's irresponsible," Danny shouted. "It's not that big of a deal. Kids are tougher than you think," she replied dismissively. "Just shut up. I never want you around Eric again," I snapped. "You can't do that." Willow cried. "Danny, say something. Serena's right, and I support her decision. I don't want you near our son anytime soon, Danny said firmly. For the next 3 years, I didn't let Willow come near me or Eric. Just the thought of her made my blood boil. She tried to reach out many times, but I ignored her. Danny spoke to her every other weekend, but that was the extent of our involvement with Willow. One day, Danny told me he had something to discuss. Serena, Mom keeps apologizing for what she did to Eric 3 years ago. She wants to see her grandson again, he said hesitantly. Absolutely not, I replied immediately. I told her the same, but she keeps saying she's getting old and doesn't want to spend the rest of her life estranged from her family, Danny explained. That's a fate she chose for herself. I don't want her near Eric. He deserves better, I said firmly. I agree, but maybe we can slowly reintroduce her into his life, with strict boundaries, Danny suggested. After much discussion, I reluctantly agreed. Willow was allowed to see Eric, but only when I was there. She had to respect all the boundaries we set. Surprisingly, she adhered to them, and slowly became a loving grandparent to Eric. She complained about the rules, but never violated them. Over time, she and Eric developed a good bond, and we began seeing her once a week for family dinners. I thought things were finally improving, but little did I know, our biggest challenge was yet to come. 3 years had passed since the incident where Willow left Eric alone. During that time, I had kept her at arm's length, protecting my son from her thoughtless actions. Danny maintained contact with her, talking every other weekend, but our relationship with her was strained, to say the least. However, I started noticing a change in Willow. She seemed genuinely remorseful for her past mistakes. She repeatedly apologized and expressed a desire to make things right. Danny and I had many discussions about whether to give her another chance. My protective instincts screamed no, but I also saw the pain in Danny's eyes every time he had to tell his mother no. One evening, after tucking Eric into bed, Danny and I sat on the couch, discussing Willow's latest apology. Serena, I really think Mom is trying to change. She's been so persistent in her apologies, Danny said, his voice tinged with hope. I know, Danny. I see it too. But can we trust her again? She left Eric alone. I don't know if I can forgive that, I replied, my heart heavy with doubt. What if we try supervised visits? We'll set strict boundaries, and if she breaks even one rule, that's it. No more chances, Danny suggested, looking at me with pleading eyes. I sighed, knowing how much this meant to him. Okay, we can try. But she has to follow every rule we set. No exceptions. Thank you, Serena. This means a lot to me, Danny said, giving me a grateful hug. The first supervised visit was awkward. Willow arrived at our house, holding a small toy for Eric. She seemed nervous, which was unusual for her. Hi, Willow. I greeted her, trying to keep my tone neutral. Hello, Serena. Thank you for giving me this chance, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Eric, who was playing with his blocks in the living room, looked up and saw his grandmother. Grandma Willow, he exclaimed, running to her with open arms. Hello, my sweet boy, Willow said, kneeling down to hug him. I brought you a little gift. Eric's eyes lit up as he took the toy from her. Thank you, Grandma. Seeing the joy on Eric's face made me soften a little. We all sat down in the living room, and Willow played with Eric while Danny and I washed. She was careful and attentive, making sure to follow every rule we had set. Over the next few months, these visits became a regular occurrence. Willow was always on her best behavior, and slowly my guard began to drop. One evening, after another successful visit, Danny and I talked about how things were going. She's really trying, isn't she? I said, more to myself than to Danny. Yes, she is. I think she genuinely regrets her past actions, Danny replied, taking my hand. I still have my reservations, but she's been good to Eric these past few months. Maybe we can start inviting her to family dinners again, I suggested, feeling a mix of hope and caution. That's a great idea, Serena. We'll keep an eye on things, but I think this is a good step forward," Danny said, smiling. We started having Willow over for Sunday dinners. She would bring small gifts for Eric and always asked how she could help. It was as if she was making up for lost time. And slowly, a new kind of trust began to form. One Sunday after dinner, Willow stayed a bit longer to help me clean up. Eric was playing with Danny in the living room, and for the first time in years, it felt like we were a normal family again. "Serena, I know I've done a lot of things wrong, and I can never truly make up for them. But I want you to know how sorry I am," Willow said, her voice sincere. "I can see you're trying, Willow, and I appreciate it. I want us to move forward, but we have to keep things the way they are." Slowly and with caution, I replied, looking her in the eyes. "I understand. Thank you for giving me this chance," she said, giving me a small, grateful smile. As time went on, Willow's bond with Eric grew stronger. She respected our boundaries and was always careful to follow our rules. She would plan small family trips, always ensuring that Danny and I were involved. Eric adored her, and seeing them together brought a warmth to my heart that I hadn't felt in a long time. One evening, as we all sat around the dinner table, Eric looked up at Willow and said, "Grandma, can we go to the zoo sometime? I want to see the giraffes." Willow looked at me for approval, and I nodded slightly. "Of course, sweetheart. We can plan a trip soon," she said, smiling at him. "Yay! Thank you, Grandma," Eric exclaimed, clapping his hands. Despite my initial reservations, it seemed that Willow had genuinely changed. She became a loving and responsible grandmother, and our family began to heal. Trust was slowly rebuilt, piece by piece, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. But as life would have it, this newfound peace was fragile, and the ultimate test of Willow's transformation was just around the corner. 3 years had passed since we began rebuilding our relationship with Willow. Eric adored his grandmother, and she had proven herself to be a reliable and loving presence in his life. We had fallen into a comfortable routine of weekly dinners and occasional outings, always with me or Danny present to keep an eye on things. Willow had not broken a single rule we set, and for the first time, I felt we had truly moved past the pain of the past. One sunny Saturday morning, while we were having breakfast, Eric brought up an idea that filled me with both excitement and dread. "Mommy, Daddy, can Grandma take me to the zoo today? I want to see the giraffes," Eric asked, his eyes shining with excitement. I exchanged a quick look with Danny. "What do you think?" he asked me quietly. I sighed, knowing how much this meant to both Eric and Willow. "We can ask her and see if she's up for it," I replied. Willow arrived shortly after breakfast, and Eric wasted no time in sharing his request. "Grandma, can you take me to the zoo today? Please," he asked, bouncing on his toes. Willow looked at me and Danny for approval. "I'd love to, but only if it's okay with your parents," she said. "Mom, it's a big responsibility," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. "The zoo is a 2-hour drive away." "I understand, Serena. I promised to take good care of him and have him back by 4:00 p.m. sharp," Willow assured me, her eyes earnest. Danny took my hand and squeezed it. "I think it's time we trust her a little more," he said softly. "All right," I said, my heart heavy with worry. "But if you're not back by 4:00 p.m., we're coming to find you." "Of course. Thank you, Serena," Willow said, giving me a small, grateful smile. Eric was ecstatic. We packed his backpack with snacks, water, and a change of clothes, and then Willow and Eric set off for their adventure. The day felt long and uneasy. I tried to distract myself with chores and a bit of work, but my mind kept drifting back to Eric. 4:00 p.m. came and went, and they still hadn't returned. By 4:30 p.m., my anxiety turned into panic. "Danny, they're not back yet," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "They're probably just caught in traffic," Danny said, though I could see the worry in his eyes. By 5 p.m., I couldn't take it any longer. I dialed Willow's number, my hands shaking. "Willow, where are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "I'm at home," she replied, sounding oddly casual. "All right. And where's Eric?" I asked, feeling my heart race. "Oh, right. I think I forgot him at the zoo," she said, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. "You forgot him at the zoo?" I shouted, my voice trembling with fear and anger. "How could you forget a child at the zoo?" "Relax, Serena. It's not that big of a deal. The zoo is open until 8 p.m. If you leave right now, you'll get there in time to bring him back," she said, sounding disturbingly nonchalant. "How are you being so calm about this? He's just a child." I screamed into the phone. "We trusted you with him, Willow. This is unforgivable. He'll be fine. Kids are tougher than you think. Just go collect him," she replied. I hung up the phone, my hands trembling with a mix of fear and rage. "Danny, we need to go. Now." We drove as fast as we could to the zoo. On the way, I called the zoo's management and explained the situation. They assured me that Eric was safe and waiting for us in the security office. When we arrived, the zoo had already closed, but the security staff was waiting for us. They led us to a small room where Eric sat, his face streaked with tears. As soon as he saw us, he ran into my arms, sobbing. "Mommy, Daddy, I was so scared," he cried, clutching me tightly. "We're here now, baby. You're safe," I whispered, holding him close. Danny and I thanked the security staff profusely and took Eric home. We spent the rest of the evening comforting him and reassuring him that he was safe. Later that night, Willow called again. "Why are there cops at my door?" she demanded. "I told you I'd make you regret it," I replied coldly. "It wasn't a big deal. You got the police involved in this?" she asked, sounding incredulous. "You put my child's life in danger. Why wouldn't I get the law involved?" I snapped. "You got him back, didn't you?" "I was only trying to get back at you for keeping him away from me for so long." "It's not that deep," she said. "So you decided to traumatize my child for some petty revenge. The kid will get over it. You need to stop coddling him," she said dismissively. "This conversation is over, Willow. Goodbye," I said, hanging up. The police took our statements, and Willow was charged with child endangerment. It was a relief to know she would face consequences, but the damage was done. Eric started therapy to help him cope with the trauma, and Danny and I worked hard to rebuild the sense of security he had lost. As the weeks turned into months, Eric began to recover, and so did we. Danny and I grew closer, united in our determination to protect our son. We learned a hard lesson about trust and family, but we emerged stronger for it. Our little family had been through a lot, but we faced it together, with love and resilience. And that, more than anything, gave me hope for the future. The day after the zoo incident, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. Willow had not only broken our trust, but had also put Eric in serious danger. Danny and I knew we had to take legal action to ensure something like this never happened again. We filed a report with the police, detailing every incident of Willow's negligence over the years. The zoo incident was the last straw. The officers were sympathetic and took our case seriously. They told us that Willow could face charges of child endangerment and neglect. A few days later, we received a call from the police station. They wanted us to come in and give our statements in person. Danny and I sat Eric down to explain what was happening. "Eric, sweetie, we need to talk to some people about what happened at the zoo," I said gently. "Are you and Daddy in trouble?" Eric asked, his big eyes filled with worry. "No, honey. We just need to tell them what happened so we can make sure it doesn't happen again," Danny explained, holding Eric's hand. At the police station, we recounted every detail of the zoo incident and previous events with Willow. The officers were thorough and patient, especially with Eric. They gave him a donut and a juice box to help him feel more comfortable. One of the officers, a kind woman named Officer Ramirez, sat down with Eric. "Hi, Eric. I'm Officer Ramirez. Can you tell me what happened at the zoo?" Eric looked at me, and I nodded encouragingly. "Grandma Willow took me to the zoo, but then she left. I was scared. The people at the zoo helped me, though," he said softly. "You did a great job staying calm, Eric. We're going to make sure you're safe, okay?" Officer Ramirez said with a warm smile. After giving our statements, we were allowed to go home. The waiting began. Danny and I were on edge, unsure of what would happen next. Finally, we received news that Willow had been arrested and charged with child endangerment and neglect. The court date was set, and we had to prepare ourselves for the trial. During this time, we focused on helping Eric heal. We found a wonderful child therapist who specialized in trauma. Eric was hesitant at first, but over time, he began to open up. "Mommy, why did Grandma Willow leave me?" he asked one evening after a therapy session. "Sometimes people make bad choices, sweetie. Grandma made a very bad choice. But it's not your fault," I explained, hugging him tightly. "I don't want to see her again," Eric said, his voice trembling. "You don't have to, honey. Daddy and I will make sure you're safe," I assured him. The day of the trial arrived. Danny and I were nervous, but we knew we had to do this for Eric. We sat in the courtroom, holding hands, as the proceedings began. Willow looked frail and scared, a stark contrast to the confident woman I once knew. The prosecutor laid out the case, detailing Willow's neglect and the zoo incident. Danny and I testified, recounting everything that had happened. It was emotionally draining, but we stood strong for Eric. Willow was given a chance to speak. She stood up, looking at us with tears in her eyes. "I never meant to hurt Eric. I made a terrible mistake, and I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. Her apology, while seemingly genuine, did little to ease the pain she had caused. The judge considered all the evidence and handed down the sentence. Willow was found guilty and sentenced to 10 years in prison for child endangerment and neglect. As we left the courtroom, I felt a sense of relief mixed with sadness. Willow was family, and it hurt to see her go to prison, but I knew it was the right decision to protect Eric. Over the next few months, we focused on healing. Eric continued his therapy and gradually began to show signs of recovery. He smiled more often and started to talk about the zoo incident less. Danny and I worked hard to create a safe and loving environment for him. One evening, as we were putting Eric to bed, he looked up at us and said, "I'm happy, Mommy. I love you and Daddy." "We love you too, sweetheart," Danny said, kissing his forehead. After Eric fell asleep, Danny and I sat in the living room, reflecting on everything that had happened. "It's been a tough journey, but I think we're getting through it," Danny said, holding my hand. "Yeah, we are. Eric is healing, and so are we." "We did the right thing, Danny," I replied, leaning my head on his shoulder. "I know. And I'm so grateful for you, Serena. We're stronger together," he said, kissing my forehead. We sat there in silence for a while, holding each other, grateful for our little family and the strength we found in each other. Life had thrown us many challenges, but together we faced them head-on, knowing that love and resilience would always see us through. Months had passed since Willow's trial, and our lives had slowly begun to find a new rhythm. The weight of what had happened still lingered, but we were determined to heal and move forward. Eric's therapy sessions continued, and with each visit, we saw a little more light in his eyes. One crisp morning, as the sun peeked through the curtains, Eric bounded into our bedroom. "Mommy, Daddy, can we go to the park today? I want to play on the swings," he exclaimed, his face glowing with excitement. I smiled and ruffled his hair. "Sure, buddy. Let's have breakfast first, and then we can head to the park." Danny joined us at the breakfast table, pouring cereal into Eric's bowl. "I think that sounds like a great plan," he said, handing Eric a spoon. As we ate, Eric chattered away about his day at school and the new game he had learned. It was heartening to hear him talk so freely, something that had become less common after the zoo incident. After breakfast, we bundled up and headed to the park. The fresh air and the sound of children's laughter were a welcome change. Eric ran straight to the swings, his face lighting up with joy. Danny and I found a bench nearby, watching Eric play. It felt good to see him so happy, so free. For a moment, the past seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by the present's simple pleasures. "Do you remember when we used to come here every weekend before everything happened?" Danny asked, his eyes on Eric. "Yeah, I remember. It feels good to be here again, doesn't it?" I replied, squeezing his hand. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Danny said, his voice soft. "Yeah, we have. It wasn't easy, but we did it together. And we're still together," I said, looking at him with a smile. Eric soon tired of the swings and ran over to us, his cheeks flushed with excitement. "Mommy, Daddy, look. I made a new friend," he said, pointing to a little girl his age, who was playing nearby. "That's great, buddy. What's her name?" Danny asked, smiling. "Her name is Lily. We're going to play tag," Eric said, taking Lily's hand and running off. Danny and I watched them play, a sense of normalcy settling over us. It was moments like these that reminded us of the strength we had found in each other and in our son. Later that day, as we were driving home, Eric asked, "Mommy, why didn't Grandma Willow come to the park with us?" I glanced at Danny, who gave me a reassuring nod. "Grandma Willow made some choices that hurt us, and she's not able to be with us right now. But we have each other, and that's what matters," I explained gently. Eric looked out the window, then turned to us with a small smile. "I miss her sometimes, but I'm happy with you and Daddy. You're my family." My heart swelled with love and relief. "We're so glad you're happy, Eric. We love you so much," I said, squeezing his hand. As the days turned into weeks, life began to take on a new sense of normalcy. We found joy in the little things. A walk in the park, a movie night, or just sitting together at the dinner table. Eric's laughter was like music to our ears. And slowly, the shadows of the past began to fade. One evening, as we were having dinner, Danny turned to me with a serious look. "Serena, I've been thinking. We've been through so much, and I think it's time we do something special for Eric. Maybe a little family trip or a weekend getaway." I smiled, touched by his thoughtfulness. "That sounds wonderful, Danny. Where do you think we should go? How about a beach house for the weekend? Eric loves the beach, and it would be nice to get away for a bit," he suggested. "Perfect. Eric would love that," I replied, feeling a surge of excitement. "Let's do it. Let's make some new memories." The weekend getaway was everything we hoped for. The beach was beautiful, the weather was perfect, and Eric's laughter filled the air. We built sandcastles, collected seashells, and even had a little bonfire on the beach at night. For the first time in a long while, we felt truly free and at peace. As we sat by the bonfire, Eric snuggled between us, looking up at the starry sky. "This is the best day ever," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "Mine too, buddy," Danny said, ruffling Eric's hair. "We're making new memories, and I'm so glad we're here together." "Me too," I added, hugging both of them close. "We've come so far, and we're stronger than ever." The fire crackled, and the waves gently lapped at the shore. In that moment, surrounded by the love of my little family, I knew we had truly started to heal. The past would always be a part of us, but it no longer defined our future. We were moving forward, one day at a time, with hope and resilience in our hearts.